Welcome to Corks and Convo, a podcast that dives into real life topics. I'm your host, Regina, along with co hosts Shadon and Tiffany. Each week, we'll be exploring topics that women over 50 deal with. So, whether you're 18 or you're 80, or you're just curious about what we're doing here at Corks and Convo, grab your your AirPods, your headphones, and a glass of wine and settle in for an uncorked conversation. Today's conversation is about men who choose easy women, but not easy in the sense of just sleeping with them, easy in the sense that they don't have to do no work to keep this woman. So, ladies, let's talk about it. Tiffany, what do you have on this topic?
On this topic, I think men choose easy women for several reasons. So I did a little bit of research and I came up with some things that a man would choose an easy woman or a woman that is not hard to get. Why would he choose them? So first off, that man may choose that woman because she's non-combative. She's not going to argue with him. She's not going to go up against him. She's not going to challenge him in what he wants her to do, whatever the case. That man also may choose that woman because he is intimidated by a strong woman.
Yeah.
Meaning the strong woman could be a woman that is not going to go for his crap. She's not going to put up with his, shit. She is not going to allow him to disrespect her, and she's going to expect just as much from him as he could possibly expect from her as a woman, in her position. And then also that man may not want a woman who's self-sufficient. She doesn't need him because a lot of men want to feel needed. They have a need to be needed as men. They watch their grandfathers take care of their grandmothers, their dad take care of their mom. So they want to be that man. They want to be in the house where they can say, I'm getting a big piece of chicken. I'm sitting at the head of the table. They want that position, So those are some things that I think, and I've looked at that a man would choose a weaker woman for. Personally, I saw a man choose this woman, and she was a client of mine. He and her came for client, couples counseling. And I remember she depended on him for everything. She depended on him for her happiness. She depended on him for her thoughts. And she just looked to him to be her answer around everything. So when that man failed her, I saw her whole world in shambles, and that man knew he held it. He held her world. He held everything about this woman. And she gave me an analogy. She was at a beach and she said, I feel so depressed that I feel like walking into the beach and never turning back. It's almost like this woman's basically saying she wants to commit suicide. She's at the beach looking at the water, right? Everybody's having fun. But in her mind, she's in such a distraught from this man and how he's hurt or whatever. She's like, I really just want to get up and start walking and never turn back. And, of course, she would drown. So I'm talking to her and trying to, get positivity back into her realm of her mind. But those are some things that men look for, I think, in women. They look for a woman that they can easily manipulate. That's why they want the weaker woman. They want that woman that they can say, hey, baby, you look a mess, or you fat, or you terrible looking. And she believes it. She internalizes it. Now I got control. I got her in my hand. And, I got a grip on her where she's basically my puppet, and I don't know. That's my thoughts of why men choose weak women. They want control. What do you guys think?
Shadon?
For me, I would think, because I consider myself such a strong base female. When I look at a guy that can manipulate and get over on a woman, or like we've had some guys friends that you'd be like, what? She let you do that? Like, those type of things. But I look for, when looking for a man, and because I'm vetting. Like when I get in, I'm vetting for that type of energy, that type of spirit that I kind of see in a guy, like to make sure, like, way over me. I most definitely do not want that man to be, over me, to talk to me in that type of light. But that's the only thing I can kind of think of with that.
So when I think about it, I think of a couple of things. So previously, before I became engaged, I dated a couple of guys, a whole bunch of guys. And one of the guys, so one guy told me we had a really good relationship, but he was like, as the relationship progresses, the natural course of a relationship is, okay, what's the next steps, what we doing? And so it got to getting closer to those type of things, and he just said to me, he was like, I'm just not ready to be the man you need me to be. And I just took that as he wanted to still, be selfish, because when you're in a relationship, you cannot be selfish. You have to really be considerate of your partner. And then I dated the last guy that I dated. He told me that he wasn't ready to be responsible for me. So I was like, what? Who says that? But
that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah, and so I took that as not necessarily anything to do with me wrong. I took it as, and he had some stuff he needed to work on for himself, because I came to the table with everything and who I am. I'm strong in my opinions, but I'm strong in who I am as myself. And so it didn't, neither situations affected my confidence. It was more so, it was them. They needed to get themselves together. And both of them are still out here being single, just doing their thing. And one of them, he hardly really dates because he does not want to take on the role of really taking care of anybody. He really is all for himself. So is that narcissistic? Is it selfish? I don't know what you call it. But what I will say is, thank God I got out of both of those situations, because I don't want to be in a relationship where it's the person is selfish and they don't consider me and things like that. But and another thing I've noticed is that some guys choose a woman who has little to nothing, because they can buy her a McDonald's meal and it's like they did something big. But people like women like us who got mortgages, who are doing things for themselves like that, they don't know how to compete with that, because we are already established, and they are looking for a woman who is not established, so it can look like they really did something. And in that situation, I'm not sure is that does the girl in a situation, does she see that? Because like Tiffany said, these men prey on women. They look for women who they can do these type of things with. And I'm not sure, when you're in it, Shadon, we used to always say you can't use your power on yourself, so you can't see it sometimes when you're in it. Somebody may have to bring that to your attention, but it may be, by the time they bring it to your attention, it might be, some damage has been done in that from that relationship.
Well, you got to be open to receive it, because I could tell you many a day, as Mickey Howard says, like, honey, you could have led me to the water, but I wouldn't have drank it. So sometimes I think that happens, with the conversation, with maturity and being able to receive what someone says.
That's true.
But I say with guys that look, because I could most definitely say, and I've said it before, I'm probably like a hard cookie, to crack. So, and I believe that I probably missed out on a couple of things because of that, because I'm just not an easy catch. I'm not like just the first conversation is you asking, you can't come directly to me as in like, oh, you're gorgeous, let me get your telephone. I'm gonna be like, what you selling? Because I ain't buying. So like, it's got to be, it's unfortunate, but and as I'm vetting, making sure that they don't have that spirit, because my dad even said that. He said that to me, never date a selfish man. And so back then I was young. I didn't know what you're talking about. But what do you consider like a selfish man? A man that just cannot never give at all, and you're just continuously on give. And that might be what I said even about the dinner thing. Like, I've dealt with guys that was probably selfish. And so I'm like, hey, make sure you got yours, and I'm gonna make sure I get mine. So one of those things I gotta sit back and probably even analyze that to see if.
So I always think that the guys have dealt with some trauma, and they, that's a trauma response that they're self, what's the right word I want to say? They're trying to take care of themselves. So because they come from a traumatic background. So I feel like that's probably the issues. And that's why I say when you get in relationships, you get in a relationship with these grown men, but they really are boys, because wherever the traumas happen, that's the age they are. And so you really have to, like you said, Shadon, you have to really vet them. And it's unfortunate that, that we have gone through so much that now our thing is like, wait a minute, should I do that? Is that a flag? Is that a red flag? Like, so you be like that because you've gone through some things, but you have to really make sure that their trauma does not affect you. Because some women, and I might have been one of them in the past, I don't think so though, they would try to love you past your trauma, and you just really cannot do it. You just really can't.
Right. I think a man
I think I did the stay in it past someone's trauma, trying to see the good in a person. And it I can't say it took me down, because I'm most definitely like, oh, I'm Shadon, who are you talking to? But my heart went out because when you see, to me, when you start to see just life's things, I do try to, as a woman, I think I go in and say, no, let me feed some positivity in you. But if I see that you can't feed it back, I kind of check out.
Right.
Because like, that was your opportunity, that was your chance. That was your door, that was your window. I believe in, if something is at my door, I have an opportunity, chance to think about it, whether I want to open it or I don't. Most of the time, if I see it, if it's at my door, I'm gonna open it. I'm whatever's out there, I'm gonna address it. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do. But I feel like sometimes if you miss that, then like the trauma response for me, I'll go all the way down. Like, there's nothing else I can do for you.
Right. And I feel like a confident man, a confident, strong man, he does not go for a weak woman. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to go for a woman that can balance him, meet him where he is, a woman that has her own passion and, her own purpose and her own, career. Maybe she, like Regina, you got a lot of friends in your groups and, different things you do. Shadon, you probably got different, hobbies or whatever the case. So it's like a man, to me, that's strong. He going to want a woman that has some things in her life going, that he can say, okay, well, baby, how was your day? What you did today? So that like when he come home, he not gonna have to give to her after he didn't also work the full day. He get to come home and they can share their day together. They want somebody in most cases that they can share life with.
That's the ideal. That's the ideal relationship, but it's unfortunate that it's not a lot of that out there. Trust me, I know. I was out there, and not only do the men pick women who are easy, a lot of men just don't like the women. They just really don't like them. And I felt like I have experienced that too. Yeah. They don't like them. And I know that one of the relationships, I felt like he was just jealous. He was just jealous because he used to be like, well, he'd be like, okay, queen, go run to your daddy. Like, he was mad because you ain't had no daddy to run to. Like, he was like that. He was like, oh, what? So again, and this is some of the reasons why they choose these easy women, because me and my sister always be like, we don't know what our parents put in us, but we different. Like, so if I give that in return, I'll be like, yes, I do have a daddy to go to. Thank God I got a daddy to go to. Like, I then would take that information, and I exit quietly now. Yeah. Like before, when I was younger, I was, throwing the tables over. I was that person. I was rah, rah, rah. Now I exit quietly. I just push back from the table and I exit stage right. So that's what I've learned from a lot of this stuff. So I come a long way. I still got a long way to go, but I came a long way.
Listen, I know. I believe it. And once you're vetting, because that was a good one, to vet them and you see it, and just nicely get away from the table. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still growing.
Mhm.
And whether I'm going to knock this table over, whether I'm going to throw the drinks across the table, or I'm going to exit nicely, it depends on the situation. But I will get up from the table.
Yeah.
If the table is not serving
Right.
any type of love. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you even, I'm like Martin Lawrence when they say, like, you better not even say daddy to me, because, honey, that is off with your head. You talk about my father. Don't even put that out your mouth and try
Period.
to be nasty. That part. Absolutely not. I say to my dad, they don't make them like you anymore. They sure.
And that's another thing, y'all. We have been blessed. We have been blessed to have both of our parents. Both of our parents have been married for all of our parents have been married for years. We have both our mom and our dad. We have really, really been blessed. And a lot of people did not have that. And so for us, and coming from a background like that, it's hard to date these men who've been raised by these little messed up women that their mamas is messed up.
Right.
I'm just saying.
That's true. That's true.
And
that's facts. And we have to.
Go ahead, Tiff.
Go ahead, Shadon. Go ahead.
I think that, like, sometimes, because they say that, like, when you're dating, like, you have to see who raised that person. So what do you think about that? Because I heard, I don't know what I was watching on social media, but it was like, yeah, you have to, when you start dating someone, you have to see who that person raised them. And then that's how you're supposed to respond and act. And I was like, well, I ain't going to act like your mama. I can't act like your mama because it was fucked up how your mama act. I don't know. Because that just doesn't make sense to me.
But I think that they have a point, though, that you have to see, because I always said that, and I think me and Shadon, we probably had this conversation a million times, like, I knew I had to have a man who came from a two-parent household, because he, to me, what I've learned in my dating stories, and I should just write a book about dating, that the guys who didn't have a mother and a father, they don't know their role, to me, in the relationship. You know, they don't know that, you know, you supposed to check the woman's tire, make sure she's driving a good car, and you know she's not, you know, they just don't know the little things because they didn't have that thing. I feel like when you're in a relationship and you young and you growing together, the woman nurtures a man, and if he never had that nurturing right, then he is not going to be able to give you back what you need. So I'm just saying, I always knew I needed somebody from a two-parent household.
No, that's a really good. That's really good. I never thought about it that way. Now I knew how I felt about the two-parent household, and I was okay with it because my son is coming from a single-parent household, and I think my dad and I have a lot of male cousins and stuff like that who kind of helped, you know, with that. But I was like, I think that, like, the mother and father situation, especially if he saw with my dad and my parents, because, you know, he's so close with them, I hope that gives him that balance of life. Let me say, that's what I hope. I hope it gives him that balance of life. That's something to think about. Because he only saw me. Like, it wasn't like he saw me in a household, in a relationship with a guy. Like, I just did not want that. Once my baby's father got killed when he was 2, I just, in my mind, I determined I wasn't going to have another child where I felt like someone would come into my home and have the opportunity to kind of mistreat him. You know, like, well, I'm going to buy for my kids. I'm not going to buy for yours. I didn't want him to do that to him. Like, no, under no circumstances. But I hope that he has the balance of it.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you, Shadon. My mom and dad has been super influential to my son. That's been his dad pretty much all his life. And I thank God for him. I thank God for them. I thank God for my dad. He calls him. They talk about, you know, men, things that I can't provide for him to talk about. But, you know, my mom and dad, that unit has been, I think they're going on 58 58 years, 58 or 59 years in February. And I just think about that, it has put a foundation, even though I've been married a couple of times, I still want that, So it at least gave me an example of what that looks like, because there's a lot, like you said, Regina, out here. But, when you see it and you have it, those are two separate things, because what you get 9 times out of 10 are going to be garbage. And, without that vetting that you mentioned, Shadon, it's going to be garbage.
Exactly.
All right. Well, ladies, we are at 20 minutes. I think we are in at our last part of this session. Any final comments or just things we want to bring up before we end?
I say, ladies, vet them. You got
I
to watch it.
I think I'm gonna go out with vet too. Vetting them, it sounds like that's the best. That's the best thing that you can do for your own peace of mind.
Vet them and stand
right.
on your ground.
And maybe that should be a topic at some point. How do we vet them? What are some vetting ways that we vet? Because that's something to be discussed too. I mean, we all have different ways, but I think you guys would provide that, to the audience. So maybe that's something in the future we could discuss, just how do
these men be having on these masks? They be wearing masks. It's hard because you can have your standards. You can have your standards. You can have your vetting criteria, but they still be trying to play these games. And it's just a matter of time before it's flipped, though. So there's that.
Right. And I'm going to tell you this, my main component with vetting is God. That's it.
Amen.
It's God.
Amen.
You have to literally pray. You have to literally seek and get his approval, before moving, and that's something I honestly can say I didn't always do. I don't think I ever did it.
Yeah.
So,
never learn.
All right. Well, ladies, you all give good commentary, good energy today. We just appreciate everybody's participation. We're going to take our glasses as we do here on Courts and Convo, and we're just going to raise our glass to another uncourt conversation. And I just thank all the listeners and everyone for joining. And we will talk to you guys next time on Courts and Convo. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Clink, clink, clink.
Cheers.